Good evening, everyone. My name is Blessing. I'm back here again on this amazing platform for sisters with Sisters by Sisters. It's Sisters Narrative again, and I'm here with Sister Debbie and Sister Precious. So today, they're going to introduce themselves as they start talking, but I just want to introduce our topic for today. We are still dealing on the woman whom God uses. Last week was amazing. We had our amazing Sister Debbie with us, and we had a lot of chat. From our discussion last week, you find that God used women in varying ways, in ways that you don't even have thought about. God used women sometimes through their brokenness, and sometimes using their strength, sometimes using their intellect, but all through, God has his own ways of using women. Today, we have our Sister Precious with us. She is part of the Sisters Narrative group, and she's going to just have a conversation with us on the way God is using her in her own life every day, with everyday decisions she has to make, and also as a calling for her life. So I'm going to let my amazing sisters introduce themselves, and then we can carry on. Thank you so much. Deb?
Oh, I was waiting for her. Hello once again. Nice to be back. My name is Deborah Okoy, fondly called Debbie. I'm a mom, a wife, church administrator, a podcaster, and I'm back to be here again.
And
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Precious Choma Jack. I'm a teen coach, the talk therapist, a mental health advocate, certified change maker, and a public health specialist.
Thanks, Precious. So today we are focusing on you. First of all, we want to thank God for your life. We want to thank you for saying yes to God, however long ago you did say yes to God, because it's because of that yes that we're here today to talk about the things that yes have given birth to, both in your life and in the lives of a lot of people. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey as a mom, as a teen coach? Just give us a brief about yourself.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I've been a mom since 2008. Okay, so but before then, I started working with young persons. That was in 1998. I was barely 16 when I started working with children. Then in church, we were told to start teaching the children's church and all of that. And it was very interesting. It was something I loved doing. And we got teaching them, doing a whole lot in children's church. Then in the year 2000, precisely, they told me to move over to the teen church, that they wanted me to now start handling teenagers with some other persons. And then I moved over to the teenage church, and I found rest. I would say I found rest when I moved over to the teenage church. I started teaching the teenagers. I started enjoying myself. I was teaching them from the year 2000 before I got married in the year 2007. And it was so interesting because I got involved in their lives. It became a passion for me. I would say that year 2000 raised a passion for me for young persons. And since 2000, this year is making it 25 years I've been working with young persons. Yeah, so I would say I've come a long way with them. And it has helped me to birth a lot of things, especially for young persons, because I suddenly carried a burden because of what I saw while teaching them, the experiences I had with them, the things they told me, the struggles they had. Bearing in mind that I was just living part of my teenagehood up until that time, it became an experience for me because they were asking questions that I had struggled with. They were asking questions that I had seen, and I began to help them build their life. So for persons who were quite younger then, I began to help them that now I have many of them married, I have many of them with children, but it took me a while, and I'm grateful to God that I had that experience and the privilege to serve them at such a young age.
Okay, thank you. While we're talking, what's come to my mind, thank God you mentioned it, it's that a teenager leading a teenager or a young adult leading teenagers. So was there a time where you felt overwhelmed by all those things that we're talking to you about since you were just a few years away from theirs?
Yes, I was 18 then. Okay, so I was teaching children who were 12, 13, 14, and 15. Some of them were even 16. Okay, so I had a beautiful experience growing up. And I had parents who were involved in parenting. I was well parented, and I had experiences. I had teachers, Sunday school teachers. I grew up from a background that was well centered around the things of God and the things that I saw. So with the questions they were asking, with the things they were telling me, I saw a gap. There was so much that was missing. And I realized that because I was coming from somewhere where I had something, and it helped me to, escape some of the things that these persons were asking me questions about. I didn't want them to be stuck in that mess. So I began to look for solutions. I began to talk to their parents. I began to look for ways of escape for them. So it wasn't overwhelming. It was interesting. Because when you're looking for solution, when you're trying to give succor to someone, when you're helping someone, it becomes very exciting for you. And remember, I was still very young. So I had the energy, I had the interest in doing it for them. And because it was exciting for me at that point, I saw myself running to my Sunday school teachers for help. Oh, we need to help this person. I saw myself running to the pastor. I saw myself going back to my parents to help me handle some of them. So it was quite interesting for me as at that moment. The only time I could say that it was overwhelming was at that young age, when they began to tell me things. There are some things that you would hear, you would not sleep well at night. So the only situation I had was I began to understand how to manage my emotions, because it was really, really, depressing when I heard some things. That was where I really needed help at that time. And that was the only overwhelming situation I know I faced, because I couldn't just comprehend that these young persons were going through this or experiencing this. That was when I had different situations to bear, really. But for me, it was it was just so interesting. Looking for solution to their problem was interesting for me.
Sorry, please, before you go, let me just ask this question. So would you say that having a stable, because from your story, it means you had a very stable childhood, parents involved. Would you say that the stability you got from home kind of helped you handle them?
To a large extent, yes.
Okay.
Because I wanted to add to that as well. How would you sort of be able to imagine or put yourself in scenarios where perhaps you haven't experienced? Let's say, for instance, crisis in the family which you haven't experienced, or maybe hunger or addiction in the family that you didn't experience. How did you navigate those things to be able to empathize? That might be the word I want to use. And then to strategize.
Yes, I was able to navigate them. Like I said, I had people to run to for help. So whenever I saw a problem, probably a child who was molested or something, I ran to people for help. I ran to look for solution. It was a situation where not all the situation was that bad. Some needed help in some certain stages, but it was okay for me to run to my parents. At some point, my parents got involved in helping me help younger persons. It was easy for me to have empathy for them because I saw that something was missing. There was a huge gap. There was a problem. So it was easy for me to fit into their situation and say, no, these people can actually experience something. You don't have to be in a bad place to understand the situation. It doesn't have to be that bad. You can be in a good place and feel. That is where empathy comes in. That's where you have compassion. So you feel that, oh, these people are in this situation because of this. And that's where you go look for solution. As a very young person, there were times when I went to the police station. There were times when I had to run to different places to help some persons, because some persons are in a very bad situation. And you don't have to say, because you haven't been there, because you haven't worn that shoe, because you don't do this, you can't experience their pain. It's because it wasn't easy for them. That's why they're in that mess. And so for you to be able to wear their pain, for you to understand that kind of empathy, you need to understand, if I were to be in that shoe, what would I have done? If I were to be in that same situation, what would I have looked for? And so that's why over the years, it has been my burden. There's nothing that gives me joy. Seeing anybody, a child or anybody run to me, or maybe I'm traveling and somebody runs to stop me on the way to say, do you remember me? You helped me as a teenager. Nothing is more rewarding. So you don't have to be in a bad place to give succor. You don't have to have experienced it to be able to help. That's exactly how it goes for me. Yeah.
That's, go ahead.
No, I just said that's amazing.
Yes, because often people would be able to show empathy when someone is going through what they've been through, when someone is dealing with what they have been through. So it's like it's easier to identify with pain when you have been there. It's easier for you to say this is what is needed when you have also walked that road. But for you to be that young and still have a certain level of understanding and still show empathy and be involved, it is the heart of God. It's a compassionate heart that can do that. It's a compassionate heart that can do that.
Yes, thank you, Sister Deb. You know, Sister Deb, it's just so amazing. I've had my own fair share of trials.
Mm.
I've had my own fair share of challenges. I've had my own situations that haven't been too interesting. Okay. I've had my painful stages, but it wasn't just about growing up. It was in other aspects of my life when it has to do with my parents. I've had to go through a lot with my child being ill, with my mom being ill, and all that. I've had my fair share of challenges. But growing up, I would say that as in God blessed me with good parents. I had good parents that were very involved. My father, my mother, they were very involved in parenting. I don't know how they got that idea, especially my dad. I don't know how he got that idea to be so involved. I have good parents and I will bless God for that. But when it comes to understanding, like I would say, you don't have to leave the pain to show empathy. I've had my own fair share from a very young age. From the age of 3, I've seen pain. I've seen pain. I've lived with pain, but it didn't have to do with my growing up. I was privileged to be loved by a whole lot of persons. Apart from my parents, I had great uncles and aunties. I still have great uncles and aunties, people who love me so much and would do so much for me. Up until today, they are still around me. They are still showing me love. I was also privileged to get married into a very great family that gave me so much love and are still giving me so much love.
Okay, sorry,
My
before we get into that aspect of marriage, I guess you just answered me. Even though you might not have walked their path, but you had your pain. You had the pain that you were dealing with that was not necessarily what they were dealing with. But pain is pain. So you can as well, try to help them as much as you could. So it doesn't go so bad. And maybe for you having parents that were involved, and to some not having parents that were involved, you knew that yours was much better because you had that a dad that was involved. But yet again, because you had that support, you could take some of those burdens from them and take it home for shoulders that could help you bear them, not just them alone.
Yes. And another thing is because I saw things that were lacking in these young persons. I saw it that something was lacking. That's why my goal is to make sure that we catch them young. Because we can make this world a better place if we all know what we're doing. It's easier to change a child who is going wrong than to turn an adult around that has missed his way. It's easier to do it with a younger person. It's easier to do it with a teenager. It's easier to repair a child than to repair an adult. So for me, my goal is to do something to this generation, to do something to change the situation before it gets bad. Most of the situations we're handling around the world today started from teenagehood, especially from childhood. Most of the things we're struggling with today, if we handle them, especially in teenagehood, we would have greater adults. So that's my goal, to make sure that I can do the little I can do to change the situation before it gets bad.
Thank you very much.
So, I just want to find out, did you encounter seasons where you sort of didn't understand clearly the aspect of this goal, or how or what God wanted from you? And how did you navigate that sort of season to get a bit more clarity, if you experienced that at all? Especially because you started young. Yes.
Yeah, I know that. I think for me, it was a little bit of here and there, trying to grow up. At a point, initially I didn't want to go to teenage church because I was already having fun with children. Now I don't want to go to children's church. Okay, so for me, that season was like a season. It was people don't like change. Change is not a very good thing. So for me, when that change came, you need to move to teen church. I was like, I was already comfortable here. So why do you want to move me? I was already comfortable with these children. So why do you want to move me? And then for me, that switch took a while to balance, because I was just wondering, okay, what am I going to be doing with these people who are already, at that point, I was seeing them as confused human beings. So, they were difficult to handle. It was easy for me to tell a child, sit down here, do this. They would always want to be petty. They want to be this. But when you see bigger children, you're like, it was a little, that switch affected me a while. But when I balanced, I didn't want to leave that scene anymore, because I began to wear their shoes. I began to be in their place. I was involved. They would come spend time with me. They would call me at late, as in they wanted to be around me. Some of them would come home with me. It became a burden. At a point, yes, I couldn't carry some of the weights. And so I was advised to calm down, concentrate on the teaching, concentrate on what you're told to do in church. I was taking people's burden home. At a point, parents started calling me. They will come, they will tell me they want to see me to report the children in my class, their own children. It became a burden. They will bring their schoolwork, they'll bring their results, they'll say, see what your child is doing in school. So parents now started putting that weight on me. It became so much that my parents had to tell me, calm down. say, because I was worried. Sometimes I'll come home, I'll complain bitterly. I was complaining about somebody's issue. It became a burden. It got so bad that when I started solving some problems, when I was not married at that time, my dad would even help me. He would help me. He would tell me, okay, what's the solution? Sometimes he would help me with school fees for them. Sometimes he would help me. At that point, I wanted to do everything, but I just didn't know. I didn't have clarity. At a point when I was working with teenagers, I started visiting the motherless babies' home. I couldn't afford it, so my parents would give me money. They would buy me food items. And also, I wanted to help. I wanted to do so many things at the same time. My dad now told me, you have to take it. I know that you're happy doing this thing, but you need to calm down. He saw the burden. I wanted to help. And I told you this is a blessing about that motherless babies. At the point I was doing it, I started writing a foundation. At that young age, I saw myself have a foundation. I saw myself do things. I would visit prison. I would tell my mom, I want to go to prison. I want to go and give them soap. I want to give them tissue. I was doing so many things. I would go to motherless baby. It was like, when I go to motherless baby home, I would sit down with the children. I would stay with them. I would hug them. I would talk to them. Live there now. So I just realized that I needed to do something. But where I found peace, where I found my passion was especially for these young people, the teenagers. And that was where I anchored, because I realized that was where I got peace.
That's amazing. So you use your parents' resources to do your own vision. That's amazing. So now, Sister Deb was talking about marriage. Let's talk about you being married, now having your own children, starting from when they were kids, because you've managed children's church, and then them growing to become teenagers, now that you're dealing with young people. How does that relate with because it would feel like God was preparing you using either the children's church or the teens church. But can you just clarify, just let us know how you were able to marry both your personal life now as a mom of children, using the reflection of the call that you were working on before you started having kids?
Quite interesting. Now, children will be children everywhere. And the truth is, teenagers experience the same thing everywhere. It doesn't matter the culture, it doesn't matter the religion, it doesn't matter who you are. You would experience what teenagers experience when you get to that stage. And so when I started having children, I must be honest, I was afraid. I need to be honest, I was afraid, yes. When I started having children, there was this, for my husband had to talk to me, there was this point where I was afraid, because I've seen a whole lot with young persons. I've experienced a whole lot with them, So I was afraid that I didn't want my children to experience all of that. It was a two-way thing. I was prepared. I was equipped to raise my children. I was also afraid. I was equipped because I could tell that, having been with children all these years, I could tell how they were functioning at different stages. I could tell. But then I was afraid, as they were growing, as they were blossoming, I realized that, I was afraid I didn't want them to go through all of these other experiences I saw young persons go through. And so at a point, it helped me, and it also didn't help me, because my children were suffering because of the tough love I was giving them, because I was like, I don't want these things to happen. I don't want that to happen. At a point, my first son, when he started growing, he said, Mommy, calm down. Don't be afraid. You need to calm down. You need to help yourself. You need to calm down. He would tell me, Mommy, calm down. Do you think that all the things you've been telling us, the foundation you've laid, was a waste? Calm down. We won't disappoint you. Mommy, you really need to calm down for your health, though, So whenever he said that, I would be like, okay, you need to calm down. So when you experience things, you just like, I would start telling them, don't do this. So, it just helped me. So it was a two-way thing. It prepared me, of course. At every stage of their growing up, I knew exactly what they were going to face. It prepared me, like I said, teenagers, or will I say children, are the same. It doesn't matter the culture, they go through the same stages. Because in the course of my taking care of young persons, I went into the school for the retarded. I went into that school to also help teenagers, because yes, the blind, the dumb, the deaf, I had to go into helping them. Yes, I have been taking care of young persons who are okay, stable, who don't have any health challenge or any issue. Okay, so they didn't need any help in any form. So I was wondering, how are these young persons growing up? These ones that are deaf, they can't talk to people. When they are molested, how do they explain what has happened to them? How do they tell? They can't hear. How would they do this? And so I saw myself going, somehow my friend and I, we did something, and I went into the school. That was another project I started, and it was a beautiful experience. I went in, I got the teachers to translate. They began, and I saw teenagers telling me a whole lot, how people touch them, how people molest them. They were expressing themselves. And I saw me telling them, I saw myself teaching how they can preserve themselves, how they can tell, how they can scream for help, how they can express themselves. And it was a beautiful experience. And I said, I'm going to put a little resources when I have it into that project, because it blew my mind. it was something that's to show you how much I'm going in for these young persons. Because like I said, the experience, when they were telling me their experiences with the sign language, I realized that they experience the same things these other normal teenagers experience. And so children will be children everywhere. So it is the same thing that happens to my own children. I just needed to be careful. I just knew at what stage, as they were growing from childhood, preteen, teenage, I just realized that, okay, this is what I'm going to do at every stage of their life, because these are things that I have experienced. So it helped me. And so for the place of fear, I've been able to overcome that fear, because every child has their lives to live. So God is helping me.
That is so amazing. That is so amazing. So, teen coach, talk therapist, tell us about that.
Okay, so whenever I have sessions with young persons, like I said, initially when I started, I didn't have any idea that I was going to go into talk therapy, psychotherapy, or anything. Because what I do usually was just to encourage them to be better persons. Like what I do, I'll just encourage. So at a point, I was called an encourager. So my friends would say, "Oh, you're an encourager. Oh, yes, you're a go-to person." And so I just continued helping them. So one day I was talking to a young person. And the guy just said, "Auntie, what you just told me is like therapy." I looked at him. I didn't have any idea about therapy or anything, that I was doing therapy on him or anything. And then I also spoke to a woman who, I think, how many years was she married without a child? And then I began to encourage her. I began to talk to her and all that. She was talking to me, and by the time I was done with her, she now said, "Do you know that what you just did for me is like therapy?" So I know that God gave me that grace. God just gave it to me. I don't know how he did it, but he just, probably part of the assignment he has laid in my hand, part of my destiny, he just gives me that strength and the grace to be able to walk into people's shoes, touch people's hearts, be able to pierce their hearts and make an impact. And so that's where talk therapy came in. And then even the youth foundation I have is called the Talk Therapist Young Adult Foundation. Okay, so that's just it, because I know the goal is to talk to people. And by the grace of God, God has helped me to be able to go beyond encouraging and to see people turn a new leaf. And so I can boldly say that God has helped me with a lot of success stories. Yes, we've not had 100% because some persons have had serious issues that is taking years to recover, but we've had success stories. So the talk therapy thing is help people come out of their situation, help them to pursue a goal, help them to achieve it, help them to see that they achieve what they want to achieve. And God has been faithful all these years. God has really been faithful.
That's amazing. What age group do you talk to? What's the age group?
Okay, so from 9, we used to do 9, but then we do 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and above. And so beyond the teenagers, beyond secondary schools, I have a program where we go to secondary schools and universities. Okay, so we handle people in the universities, we handle people in secondary schools. So what I do is sometimes we go bi-monthly, sometimes we go when they have programs. I talk to teenagers in secondary school, people in the senior secondary and in the junior secondary, and then university students. So what we do is those in higher institutions, we also visit all the schools in my city. I've visited almost all the universities here. Okay, so we have programs where we attend to them. Beyond the youth days and all of that, we have different programs. And then we also run a session where we have private counseling. We have for parents and for teenagers. I train school teachers. I train in Parent Teachers Association. I train school counselors to counsel young persons. I work with different organizations, different companies, especially for their girls and child days, boys days, and all of that. I prepare their team to go out to raise people in the young schools and all of that. So that's what we've been doing. We've been training and equipping people. I also train churches. They are teenage teachers. I've been privileged to, my team and I have been training them. And so we'll be doing a whole lot for young persons beyond the scope of what we have. Yes.
Can I just add, so I hear church, most of it. Is it like open to members of the public, Muslims, people who don't have any specific religion, or it is specifically they have to be Christians or they have to be referred by the church? How do you get them?
Okay, so I work with everyone. I have Muslim clients too. So I basically work with people that are non-Christians. I work with people that are Christians. Yes, I have a lot of clients that are Muslims too. But in the church, I'm privileged to serve in my organization where, as a minister, I also work. I'm a counselor in my church. I'm the head of the addictions assistance and recovery team. By the grace of God, I head that team. And then also in the marriage team, the marriage and family unit, my husband and I are also there. And so we serve there in that unit. But then this is what I do as a person outside of the body of Christ. I do this outside and I work with everyone from every religion and from any organization.
Can I ask this? Today we are talking on the woman that God uses. So how has your faith, you mentioned talking with others that are not part of your faith, how has your faith helped you to talk with others without really being on their faces of who they are? Like, okay, you're not in my faith. How have you been able to bring about a balance when you're talking with individuals that are not part of your faith?
So for me, the goal is being a human, first of all. We're first of all humans before we became Christians. Okay, so are you a human being? That is what is important, first of all. Humanity is key. So it doesn't matter what religion, it doesn't matter who they are, it doesn't matter what they do. But the goal is we want people to be better. So I don't put my faith in the faces of people who come to me. So when you fill my form, first of all, I ask for your religion. Tell me what you do. Are you a Christian, a non-Christian? Are you a Muslim? So whatever your religion is, I'm able, because I now know who you are and what you believe in, I'm able to walk with you on that light. So I don't put my faith in your face. I don't struggle to drag you out of your faith. The most important thing is I bring the human nature to your problem, and I try to help you solve the situation for which you came for. So when I have clients, I don't try to turn you around from your faith or to do anything, except I know that you really need it. Especially you're handling some persons who are non-Christians, for instance, and they're confused. They don't know what they want, and if they ask for it, but I don't use my faith as a guide to say I'll take you or I'll not take you. No, I handle Muslims. Like I said, I have Muslim clients, people who are non-Christians. I handle everyone. The goal is to make them better, and that's what we're working on.
Okay, so one of the things I've learned is that non-Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, whatever you are, love is a universal language that everyone understands, and the core of our faith is love. So how has your faith now helped you to relate with people, even though you do not put it on their faces? But how has your background of being a child of God helped you to relate with others?
Oh, interesting. Now, because we have love, now understanding where I'm coming from, that we were all sinners before Christ died for us. Now, this thing that I have in me was freely given to me. This love is so amazing. And because love, God is just love personified, and I have that privilege to be his child. That love is in my heart. And because of that love in my heart, that is what I want to share with the world. That is what I want to share with people who I come in contact with. So the idea is that I already have this in my heart. It's easy for me to freely give it out. So it's the God in me that helps me want to see them change. It's the love in me that wants me want to handle anyone, be it whatever your religion is. It's that love that I have in me. And because I was freely given, I have to also freely give it out. So that's what makes it easy for me to share that love with others.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to piggyback on that question. What template do you work with? Do you specifically work with a religious-based template that you then have to amend when you're talking to people who are not, same religion as that template, or you have like a free-flowing template for how you attend to young people and their families?
Yeah, so I have a balanced template. Okay, so I have a template that is balanced, that can be used for anyone. Then when it comes to the religion, when it comes to church, because I also handle people in church, I handle them with another template, because it's a two-way thing. They could be coming from referrals from their own, maybe spiritual leaders. Beyond our church, we also have people coming from other churches to get help from our counseling unit too. So it's not just our church. People refer their church members from outside to come to our church, and God has helped us to be a blessing to other people. So beyond that, I have a template that works for anyone. We don't have to streamline our template. We have a template at the Talk Therapist that works for anyone.
Thank God for strategy and the wisdom of God. Okay, so but are you in the scope of saying that this is ministry for me? Are you, or this is just what I do? Or it's it for you, it's like having an understanding of this is purpose, this is destiny, this is also being able to help people back to where they are meant to be. Do you walk in that consciousness?
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you for this question. This is purpose for me. Like I said, if you look at where I'm coming from and how much God has helped me over the years, this is ministry. And like I said, I want to die empty. I want to die empty. I want to die and be remembered for that woman who was able to touch lives and to make an impact. Okay, so for me, this is ministry, this is purpose. I'm living my purpose. And maybe that's why I'm so fulfilled. I'm living my purpose. I wake up every morning and there's one new idea. There's something that is coming for young persons. I'm sitting down every day. I'm going through meetings. I'm looking for innovations. I just had a meeting with an organization who wants to run a program for young persons, and they were referred by somebody outside of this country who said, go to her. They got my contact and we started building something. And when I was talking, the man said, you're so passionate about young people. And I just said, in my heart, I was like, he has no idea. So for me, this is ministry. If I, sometimes you just wish that if I can just turn things, if I can just change the situation. Sometimes I write policies. I dream about changing Nigerian policies. I've gone through the health systems for adolescent health. I've looked at a whole lot of things. I've brought my own changes. When I look at our policy for adolescent health, I've looked at things that are missing. I've looked at how I can change things. And if I have any opportunity, whenever we're having any summit or anything, I always chip in where those changes can come from. So for me, this is ministry. And this is what I want to be remembered for.
Amen.
That's amazing. Now, if I want you to speak to two different categories of women. The first category of women will be those who have children that they can't help by themselves. They can't understand how to help their children, either because they lack the capacity or they are troubled themselves and they're in places where they can't even fight their own demons, let alone be able to have the mindset of fighting for their children. I want you to speak to that category of women. Then I want to speak to the category of women who have the same hunger as you, but still in the early stages. They don't know if it's the right thing for them, but they have so much passion. Sometimes they feel like God has to speak to me this way, tell me specifically, this is what I want you to do. But yet they know they have the hunger, they know they have the passion. So with your experiences, if you can just give maybe just a couple of words to these two women, let them hear you, let them be able to find a voice that will answer that question, whatever it is that category they are. It will really be nice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sister Blessing. Okay, so let me start with the first category of persons you talked about. The truth is, for you to be a good mother or for you to be a good caregiver as a woman, you have to heal. You can't parent from the place of pain or trauma. You need to heal, first of all, and understand that you can only give what you have. If you're afraid, if you're worried, if you are unforgiving, if you haven't recovered from your past, there is no way you can be a good parent as a mother. Okay, so you were talking about a mother who is struggling or wanting to be this and all of that. You have to, first of all, have life to give life. So heal, recover, get better. Then you can now give better. And then the other thing I'll tell them is, when you have healed and you have told yourself the truth, then you can now be a good mother. And to be a good mother, you have to understand the children you have in your care. First of all, it is a privilege. It is an honor to be given an opportunity to parent someone. Whether you're a guardian or a biological parent, it is an opportunity to have another child in your care. It is a responsibility, and it's not something you can do on your own. The Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Parenting is an assignment. It is a responsibility. And you can only do it, like I said, from the place of your recovery, becoming a better person, and you're filled. You can only pour from a cup that is full. So when you are now filled, you now know that you have an assignment to fulfill to parent a child. Whether from childhood, from suckling, as the child is in your womb, parenting starts. You begin to speak to that thing, speak to the child, speak to what you're carrying, speak to the destiny that is yet unborn. It starts from the womb. It starts from the womb. Okay, so, and then you begin to understand as they start growing, you understand, you watch them from childhood, you speak to them, and then you must learn how to talk, communicate. Mothers just feel that it's easy to just raise a child. You just have to command, you just have to tell them what to do. You don't just give orders. You learn to communicate, you hear them talk, and then you allow them talk, and then you talk back, you allow them talk. Growing up, a lot of persons just felt that you just have to listen to me and do as I say. Do as I say.
Factor, isn't it? The Nigerian factor.
Yes, you just have to understand that. So being a great mother is not rocket science, and there's nothing like a perfect mother. So mothers and caregivers need to just understand this. Don't strive to be a perfect mother. Don't strive to be that. It doesn't work. Just strive to be a compassionate mother, a mother that has empathy, because as you're raising children, you should be able to put yourself in their shoe. As they are young, you'll be able to say, okay, what if you had done this differently? Understand that if you were that age, how would you want your parents to parent you? So parent with that mindset of the way that I would have wished my parent, led me. I would have wished that I was parented, that's how I want to give to my children. And then another thing to also do is to, as you're parenting your children as a mother, one thing you must understand is that child that you have, watch them closely. They have 3 ages. Watch them before they become teenagers very well. Their chronological age, biological age, and their emotional intelligent age. I always tell parents, know this and have peace. Because if your child becomes a teenager, becomes a young adult, you should be able to know how the child reasons, what is happening to that child while they are behaving the way they do, their temperament. So parenting is hard work. Okay, it's not enough to give birth to a child. Parenting is hard work. And so those are the things that we need to do to prepare our minds to be able to know what to do, especially when we're working with the children that God has put in our care. Then on the other way, if you asked a second question, you said, I just want to end from the other one, because if I continue, I have too many points that I will not end. Okay, but I think I've been able to make few points from what you asked. So your second question again, you were saying something about helping those who feel that they have this ministry and they want to go into it. Yes. So I was invited somewhere to come train people to teach, especially teenagers. I'll always be referring to teenagers. I know you're asking about children. So I started and I gave a scenario and I said, you see 2 girls, one dressed in a way that is not pleasing. And how would you react? Oh, they gave me different reactions and all of that. And I said, majority of you are not supposed to be in this hall. So if you want to have a passion to help young persons, you cannot start condemning them, and you can't condemn and have empathy at the same time. Okay, so if you want to be able to have that passion, the zeal to help young persons, you have to understand that they will make mistakes. You don't judge them, you don't try to run them down, you try to help them come out of their mess. So for you to want to go into that ministry, you ask yourself, how much do you have? How much compassion? How much change do you want to see in people? How much do you want to give? If your place is to come to judge them, if your place is to come to look at what they're doing, if your place is to condemn them, then you're not ready to work with young persons. You're not ready. So for you to build that passion inside of you, you need to be ready to give. You need to be ready to give. You need to be ready to give so much, just like Christ died for the church. You need to be ready to give so much to have that compassion. And then it begins to build. When God sees your heart, He knows that you're capable. He gives you more responsibility. He prepares you for the tasks ahead. But you have to build that desire to want to see change.
The training that they should look to getting so that it improves the passion. There is the passion, but is there training that can help them? That you can.
Yes, there are different trainings.
Right,
yes, okay. There are different trainings. You just have to keep learning and learning and learning and unlearning. Learning never ends. So you need to train. If you want to be a teen coach, a children's teacher, you need to train. There are different curriculums and programs out there. You need to train on a lot of things to be able to manage people. You need to train to be able to manage human beings. You need to train for young persons. So anytime you see any opportunity that has to do with certification for what passion you're driving at, you need to get engaged. Pay for those courses and learn, because that's the only way to go. So yes, there are trainings.
Right. I thought I heard them say something.
I actually thought the way you were going, you were winding down. When you were talking, there was something you said that struck a chord. When you said you cannot give what you do not have, and I completely agree. But what do you tell those women that are struggling? I told you a story right now about a mom that takes her frustration on her children. That's the way she knows how to do it, and her kids are teenagers. So if you're talking with a mom like that already has told you, this is what I do, what do you tell the mom? Not for the mom, but because you're passionate about protecting the teenagers. So what would you say?
Still the same thing now. The truth is, like I said, you need to heal. Okay. Mothers who have been traumatized are raising children that are traumatized. Mothers who are in pain are raising children in pain. Look at this. When you come to a home where a mother is happy, or just think about it, whenever you're excited, you're happy about the situation, you come home very joyful, right? The atmosphere in your home automatically becomes very joyful. If your children are very young, they will run around you. Everybody's running at the pace of your excitement. It flows through the way you feed, you cook, you're joyful, you're singing, the house is bubbling. When you are sad, what happens in your home? When you're angry, what happens? That's exactly Beautiful. That's exactly the situation with parenting. Are you a mother who, like the story you told me, is in a bad place? You would give pain because you have nothing to offer. And so sometimes you take out the frustration on the child. So you see mothers who are bitter about maybe their spouses, bitter about situation, haven't healed from trauma. They are taking out the fear and the frustration on their children. They use abusive words, they hit the children, they say things they shouldn't say to those children because they are in a place of pain. So what I would say to them is that your children are not your problem. And your children didn't put you in the situation that you are.
Definitely, yes, that's true.
You need to heal. You need to heal. You need to heal.
One of the things somebody was saying, everybody's saying, I have to heal. How?
You have to heal. So how you're going to heal is to, first of all, tell yourself the truth. Accept it that you have a problem. Some of these women, when you talk to them, they tell you, no, it's okay, there's no problem. I was just trying to correct them. You step, first of all, the first thing to do is to tell yourself that you have a problem. And when you tell yourself that you have a problem, the next thing is to look for solution to that problem. And that's where psychotherapy comes in. First of all, you are now talking now. Somebody who is talking to you about her problem is expecting you to help her solve that problem. So the talking doesn't end the first day she told you the problem. You need to prepare her for the next session to tell her, okay, now that you've written out all of these problems, you now go and draw a draft to help her solve the problem. When you talk to people, they now come to tell you, this and this and this you're going to do. You first of all gather the children and apologize to them because they are hurt. When you now know that you have a problem, you call the children. Yes, Nigerian mothers are changing these days, so they are beginning to say sorry.
Oh, nice. That is amazing.
Yes, it might not be 100%, but I know that parents that I've handled are beginning to tell their children, I'm sorry. Because see,
lovely.
Let me tell you what is happening to these young people. They never recover from the negative words that we tell them.
Yes.
They never forget it. You see a child sitting in front of me and she's telling me, she's recalling, Auntie Precious, my mother called me this. My mother told me this. My father told me this. You see a boy, I can never forgive my mother for saying this. So they never recover. But when they hear you say, I'm sorry, it will shock them. I had a child who I was working with the parent and the child. In fact, when the child came for our session, I was saying that my dad told me I'm sorry. She's still in shock that her father told her he was sorry. Because that's part of the healing process. You have to be humble. If you want it to be all right, let them know that you're sorry for calling them names, for taking it out on them, for using abusive words. Say, I'm sorry. I did this because the truth is, you didn't know any other way to do it. That was why you did it that way. Sometimes when I tell the children, when they tell me, why would my mother say this? Well, I try to tell them that your mother didn't know any better. So I try to prepare their hearts. You need to tell them that. So to heal, first of all, own your mistakes, accept your shortcomings, and then look for help. Look for who can help you. Seek help from a professional that can help you, and then apologize to your children, and then intentionally. You see, this thing is not easy. As you're healing, you have to be intentional about it. Sometimes when you want to shout, remember that you told yourself you won't shout again, and then take it easy. When you shout, apologize. I'm sorry for shouting. I'm sorry, we're getting there. I'm working on myself, but this is what you have to do. So you begin to talk to them and tell them, I'm sorry I took it out on you. This is what I've been through. I don't want you to go through what I'm going through. So this is where I'm coming from. Bear with me. I'm sorry. The child now begins to understand you. When you become vulnerable, your children see you from your place of pain. These children, they know better now. So they begin to manage you. And then you now tell them, you need to own up. You need to be vulnerable and tell them, I'm trying to be a better mother. So you have to understand. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to make mistakes along the way. And then intentionality helps you. Gradually, you would overcome your trauma. You would overcome your wrong parenting. And then be ready, be willing to learn and unlearn. In your place of healing and recovery, you have to be open-minded. Be willing to learn and unlearn, relearn new things that can help you be a better mother and a better parent. It's not easy, but it is possible.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah, so just one last thing. What legacy, if I might ask, would you want to leave behind? Not specifically, even though that might be the direction, not specifically as a teen coach, but as a woman who allows herself to be used by God. What legacy would you want to leave behind?
Like I said, when it is time to die, let that be all that I have left to do. Okay, when it is time for me to leave this earth, let it be the only thing remaining for me to do, which means I have so much in me that I haven't yet harnessed. I have so much in me that I haven't yet done. There are still some things inside of me that are still building that I need to do. So I want to be able to leave a legacy that a woman who lived her life to the fullest, who made an impact, who when you remember her name, you will smile to say she touched life in different ways. And it's not going to be easy. Like I said, we'll do the little we can do to make the change the little drops of water we can put to make this world a better place. The legacy I want to leave behind, I want to make an impact that can change a woman or a child's story, anybody's story who I come in contact with.
That is amazing. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your time. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for sharing your passions and the strategy that God has given you and the impact it is making. Usually when people listen, they're able to relate with what you're doing. Is there a way that people could reach you within and out or outside Nigeria, just if they have heard you today and they have questions or they need pointers? Is that can you just share your details that our listeners can contact you if they need your support?
Okay, so they can meet me on any of my social media handles, even if I'm not so much of a social media person, but I'm on Facebook as Precious Chioma Jack, on Instagram as Precious Chioma Jack. I can't remember when last I went there. Okay, so on YouTube as Precious Chioma Jack, even on LinkedIn, and then Twitter, The Talk Therapist. But they can always reach me via my number. They can send WhatsApp messages. They can send emails to talkwithprecious1@gmail.com. The Talk Therapist, yes, at gmail.com. They can talk with precious1@gmail.com. They can also reach me via WhatsApp on 0803437249008 plus 234-8037249008. They can send me emails, talkwithprecious1@gmail.com.
Right, thank you so much. We'll put the numbers on the screen so viewers can copy it and then they can chat with you. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for having me.
It's interesting.
It is. So thank you for everyone that have listened today. We want to thank you for the time. Thank you for listening. If you have questions about your parenting, if you have questions about a passion that leads to parenting children, supporting young people, just give us a call, give us a message using the details that will scroll on your screen. And for every other woman who is being used of God, we celebrate you. Even though we can't bring you on our platform, just know that God himself is celebrating you. But if we can, we will bring you on our platform to share what God is doing through, in you, and with you. Thanks everyone for tonight. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.